Welcome to this edition of Mayor's Report Livermore. I am your host, former Assemblywoman Catharine Baker, and I'm coming to you from my living room, actually my family room at home, as we shelter in place. And I also am thrilled to have, as always, our guest, Livermore Mayor John Marchand, who's coming to you from a different location as well. How are you, Mayor Marchand?
Doing very well, Catherine. I'm also in my family room, but we're trying to set a good example by sheltering in place, and we're certainly maintaining our 6-foot distance.
Well, I'm glad to see it, and I know that you're not wearing a tie every day as you shelter in place at home, but you might be. What tie do you have on today? Because often you have a fun and a tie that has a great story, and since we can't see each other out and about in the community to chat about that, what can you share with us today about your tie?
Well, it's one of my endangered species ties. It's got a penguin painted on it, but I thought it was appropriate because one of the things we're doing is that we are maintaining the environment. We have essential services here. We are still operating our wastewater treatment plant 24/7. And that is an award-winning wastewater plant because of the wonderful murals that we have on the plant that show that what we do there really does affect the environment. So this is sort of my essential services tie, that this is what we continue to do. We continue to keep the city operating and serving the community.
Terrific. Well, it is really good to see you, even though we're on screens in two very different locations, and good to be providing an update today for Livermore residents on what we're all experiencing as COVID-19. And wonder if we could just go right into some updates. You know, earlier, just a few days ago, Alameda County, which as a county government issues the health directive and guidelines that then affect the jurisdictions in the county, revised its shelter in place rules, both extending it through May 3rd, as well as defining and narrowing some of the allowed and essential activities and businesses. And I'm sure that's affecting Livermore and Livermore residents. Can you tell us how the order is affecting the city of Livermore and what's happening in our town?
Well, certainly. So Livermore is we're different from all the other cities in the Tri-Valley because Livermore doesn't operate the parks. I get a lot of calls and a lot of emails from folks saying, well, why aren't you closing the parks? Why aren't you closing the playgrounds? Because I see kids playing basketball out there. The city of Livermore doesn't operate the parks. There's a separately elected board from LARPD, the Livermore Area Recreation and Park District. And those are the folks that manage our parks here in Livermore. And so we're working with them very closely, obviously with them and the school district. But I understand that they have closed the dog parks. They've closed the playgrounds because obviously in the new world of COVID-19, you don't want children playing basketball because you've obviously got everybody touching the same ball. You're not maintaining the 6-foot social distancing. So these are things that we're working with together. Our police officers are advising people to maintain the safe social distancing. But as far as the operation of the parks, that really goes to the Livermore Area Recreation and Park District. I actually got an email from someone the other day asking us to close down the Carnegie State Recreational Vehicle area. Well, state recreational vehicle areas should give people a clue that we have no control over that. In fact, the Carnegie Off-Road Park is over in San Joaquin County. It's not in our county. One of the things that I've heard a lot of is a lot of people have gotten really focused on the numbers. They want me to tell them how many numbers of cases of COVID-19 we have in Livermore. Well, first off, we don't have that data. The city of Livermore doesn't have that data. We don't do the testing. The county of Alameda, as you pointed out, the Alameda County Public Health Department controls that information, controls that data. We do not. So all of the data for COVID-19 testing is kept by the counties, and they don't share that with the cities. So we don't have that information. But let's just presume, I think the last number was about 360 cases in Alameda County. There are 14 cities, so do the math. The odds are that we do have COVID-19 cases that are positive here in Livermore. I do know of at least one positive that we had. That was at the Open Heart Kitchen. So they immediately closed it down and scrubbed up the area. And so now we're working with Open Heart to reopen that, because it's a critical piece of infrastructure for our community. But at the same time, regardless of what those numbers are, our behaviors should remain the same. We should maintain safe social distancing. We should wash our hands frequently, avoid any unnecessary travel. But at the same time, while you can do that, grocery stores are still open. Restaurants are still open. In fact, several restaurants, for example, the Simply Fondue and the Sauced Ale House and Hop Divine. I know that Hop Divine and Ale House are actually selling groceries. So if you're running out of critical things that you need around the household, toilet paper, fresh meats. And,
well, you're making me hungry talking about some of the local restaurants in our area. They are available. The ones that are, it's for delivery or takeout only, of course. The Alameda County revised orders that came out narrowed not only what can happen in our parks, but what businesses can be open. And I just wanted to revise with restaurants. They are open, but it's only for takeout or delivery. And some of them are certainly doing groceries, as you've mentioned. I'm sure you've been visiting some of them as well. What can you tell us a little bit about, and maybe it's changed under the revised orders from the county, maybe it hasn't. Share with our residents what services people can still conduct with the city and how they would go about doing that. For example, if someone has a permit they had planned on applying for, or if there's other city services they need to do, what's available to the city, maybe what has been stopped for now, and how they go about accessing those services.
Let me just back up a little bit here. So go to Livermore Downtown Inc., Livermore Downtown Incorporated. They've got a great website that shows all of the restaurants that are open for business, that are doing takeout, that are doing grocery store services. One of my favorites is Sutherland Distillery has taken their Zin Gin base, and they're now making hand sanitizer. So one of these great pivots to make that work. But then you can go online to Livermore Downtown Inc., find out what restaurants are doing what. And also, as you mentioned the last time, gift cards. Gift cards are a great way to keep these restaurants open. Do takeout. There's let me just DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and Caviar are all places where you can work with delivery and make this work. Now, back to your question. What services are available?
I'll go back to food as well. You're right, and some of the restaurants may be doing delivery on their own as well. And you're terrific as our mayor to be promoting our downtown, and not just the downtown, but the whole community in the area for what restaurants have, and especially the opportunity to get hand sanitizer. I don't know if it's something that they're selling at their location or if they're donating it to locations, but we've seen that's happening with a lot of the distilleries that are just in our Tri-Valley area, and proud to see that Livermore has that as well. But yes, the city services would be great to hear about.
Right, so city services, so walk-in services at City Hall are closed. The City Hall is closed. We still have people working there. People are essential functions. People in the city manager's office are still working. Planning, permitting. Yes, those are all working, but most of those are being done remote. So if you call the city of Livermore, we're very busy, obviously. Leave a message, someone will get back to you. If you have an engineer or a planner that you are working with, send them an email. We're all working remotely, so they can still get a hold of you. All that plan checking is being done remotely. We're still working. The permits are still being processed. So you can still call, you can still email. Work is still getting done. You just can't walk in up to the counter and plank yourself down and get a planner to come out and work with you. We'll still work with you, but again, it's going to be by phone, by email, by remote.
Well, and also I noticed that the new Alameda County guidelines, or actually it's really an order, has restricted the amount even of landscaping that can be done, so that if there is, unless it is to maintain sanitation or public health and safety, that it's not supposed to be happening. I haven't seen it if the landscaping in our Livermore area will continue, but around our city property and otherwise, I imagine that maintenance will continue. Do you have any updates on that as well?
Well, as long as yes, that's an interesting question, because I know that for regular houses that those have been suspended, but because a lot of ours are in remote locations, it may be that some of that may still go on. But if not, and looks a little bit shabby, cut us a little bit of slack. We'll get back to that. But a couple of other things that are happening in the city. We have an eviction moratorium. So if people are in financial straits because of the loss of income, loss of revenue, there's a city moratorium on evictions, so they can continue to work with their landlords. I know that many of the banks are imposing evictions on foreclosure, or excuse me, moratoriums on foreclosures, because these are unprecedented times. The city of Livermore is also waiving any penalties or interest on late payments for water, or I know most of the sewer rates are on the property tax rolls, but any of those sorts of things, we're waiving those. And I know that Alameda County is also working on waiving penalties and interest on the property tax. So there's work on that. So a lot of governments are trying to help out during this really difficult time, and we'll work together, and we're gonna get through it together.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break in just a moment, but I believe that the eviction moratorium also applies to commercial property in Livermore.
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. Well, thank you for those updates. We're going to take a short break. Please join us in just a moment on Tri-Valley Television for Mayor's Report Livermore. Welcome back to this edition of Mayor's Report Livermore from remote location. Both Mayor Marchand and I are coming to you. John, we were talking a little bit about, of course, COVID-19 and some of the impacts on our local area and what services are or are not available. I want to chat with you just briefly about what meetings are still continuing in city government. I understand the city council is still meeting, but is that correct, through Zoom meetings?
Yes, it is. So the city council, there's work that still has to get done. We still have to do the work that needs to be done for the community, to keep the community working. So yes, the city council is meeting. It's a little bit different now. We've been meeting remotely. So we've been using YouTube and Zoom and a lot of different technologies to get these meetings together. So it turns out I'm still at City Hall. To make this thing work, there's got to be one person live. So I am the one that goes in for the meetings. Everybody else is doing it remotely, but people can still comment if they have questions. They can either send in their comments by email or their questions by email, and they can also go through YouTube. So all of these links are available on the city website. So you can go in. Lately, our meetings have been at 5 o'clock to better accommodate everybody's schedules. So you can go to the city website, go to the city clerk's page, and get the information on how you can still participate in the meetings of the Livermore City Council. Our next meeting is going to be April 13th. That's it's still going to be at 5 o'clock. So you can, again, go to YouTube to watch the meetings, or comment through the city clerk's office. But yeah, so there you go. Next meeting, the 13th.
Good. You're still at work. Glad to hear it. And then, of course, the other committees and commissions, subcommittees of the city are, I'm sure, not meeting at this time, at least during the next several weeks as we continue at shelter at home. Is that right?
That's correct. Because of the Brown Act considerations, it's just too difficult to get all of those together. So all the committee meetings, planning commission, those will all be deferred until further notice.
You got it. Well, we've had some great examples of ways in which folks are continuing to help one another. And I think on our last mayor's report, we visited about some of the resources that are available for meals in our area for those in need. I understand you have some updates or certainly some mentions of Meals on Wheels and Open Heart Kitchen.
Right, Open Heart Kitchen, Meals on Wheels, the Livermore Homeless Refuge, those are all still in critical need of supplies, support, donations. Meals on Wheels, Spectrum Community Services, they're still in need of drivers, seniors that can't get out, they can't go out and go shopping. It's very important that we continue to keep them in receipt of nutritious meals and that public contact, even though we're still maintaining the 6 foot social distancing, it's still very important. So if people have extra time on their hands, they can go to the Tri-Valley Haven, Open Heart Kitchen, Spectrum Community Services, Meals on Wheels. They still need your help. They still need your donations. They still need your time. So continue to get out and serve this community. We're going to get through this together.
Absolutely. Well, these aren't normal times, but we do have some things that still keep moving and are still on the forefront of our minds and might actually be refreshing to think about when we're sort of stuck in the same four walls most of the time. And that's our beautiful downtown. And I want to see if we can transition a bit from the COVID-19 details and visit about our downtown and some new developments, hotels in particular, realizing that everything's a little bit uncertain right now and timings may change. But what can you tell us is happening with the Wine Country Inn proposal that had been on deck earlier this year?
Okay, so very clear. So we have a Wine Country Inn and we have the Wine Country Hotel. So the Wine Country Hotel at the Bankhead, that's moving ahead because Measure P passed. And so that's still in place. Of course, now we are, the world as we know it has changed. So, but Presidio is still absolutely committed to making the Wine Country Hotel at the Bankhead happen. Right now, they're concerned with their current properties that they're operating, but they're still very, very interested in moving ahead with the hotel in the downtown, right next to the Bankhead Theater, where it's been planned for many, many years. Still, we're very excited about that. The Wine Country Inn, now that's the one that's down in the Wine Country out of Arroyo and Hanson Roads. The group calling themselves the Friends of South Livermore filed a CEQA lawsuit maintaining that the city did not do their due diligence and that there were still environmental concerns, and they filed that on February 13th. We do believe that the city did the due diligence. Everything that was planned in the environmental impact report was as planned. The environmental impact report anticipated all of the development in the wine region. They also anticipated a 30-room hotel going on the site. This is 30 rooms. It also envisioned a 100-seat restaurant. And in fact, the restaurant that's been proposed is only 77 seats. So the restaurant's actually smaller. The hotel is the size that was originally envisioned. So we believe that we did all the due diligence and that it is in keeping with the environmental impact report. So we believe that we acted correctly. There's a group that just filed a CEQA lawsuit, but the proposed builder of the hotel, of the Wine Country Inn, is still very excited about bringing this really key piece into the wine country, because one of the things that was identified that's missing is hospitality in our wine region. And that's something that this will be a very important linchpin to bring more people into the wine region and to really support the wineries that we have down there in this the growing wine industry.
Yeah, well, it certainly isn't uncommon for there to be CEQA lawsuits when there are projects like this, but it's also important to our area that we have hospitality and hotels for our, not just our wine country, but for our greater tourism and visitation, which I'm sure we both look forward to reviving as time goes on when we have the appropriate opportunity to do that. There's another area that has been, oh, please, go ahead.
No, we heard loud and clear that the #1 issue in the downtown was parking. And so the I Street Garage, which is the one, it's going to be actually tied into our current garage in the downtown. That's just gone out to bid. So we should be starting construction on that later this year. And Stockman's Park, they were still building Stockman's Park right up until the second order. And I believe that because it is not housing, it is not considered essential, that construction on Stockman Park has stopped. So that's going to get pushed out a little bit. We'd originally hoped on having the ribbon cutting on that in May or possibly early in the summer. That's been pushed back. We're so close. It's very exciting. Looking forward to that. One thing that just came out, I was informed. Oh, we're still online?
Yes. Yes, we are. Okay. You were just starting to mention one thing that still comes out or is about to come out.
I just found out that the World War couldn't stop it, but the Livermore Rodeo is going to be it's not going to happen this year. So but they just understood that their contracts would have to be in place, and it's too great of a risk, and we don't know what the landscape is going to look like in 2 months. So I just found out that the Livermore Rodeo is canceled for this year.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that because that is over a century-old event. It's been a wonderful gathering. We know that there are many great gatherings and projects like Stockman's Park that are just in a moment of pause right now, especially after the second order from Alameda County, and construction that is not essential, including housing construction. If it's not with at least 10% affordable housing component, even housing construction is going to be delayed. Commercial housing can only be allowed if it is for essential businesses and delivery of services, or to shut down construction so that it can be halted. So there'll be some changes, and we're going to, as you say, I'm sure, weather it well together. In the few moments we have left, I wonder if you have some points that you'd like to highlight coming up that we can be looking forward to and put on our radar screens for our viewers.
Well, actually, there's not a lot going on right now. There's a tremendous need in the community. Look out for your neighbors. One of the things I'm very heartened to see is the number of people that are on Nextdoor volunteering their services, people that can't get out, people that are very concerned about going to the grocery store, people that are volunteering their services, their time, willing to share their hand sanitizer, their toilet paper that they have extra stocks of. So look out for your community, look out for your neighbors, shelter in place, wash your hands frequently. Let's look out after each other and we get through this together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're seeing it. It's really inspiring to see it, even as the distillery that you mentioned, it's switching gears and doing hand sanitizers. I know I've been in touch. Livermore is very proud to be home of Sandia Labs and Livermore National Laboratory. And I've helped connect them with some of our local hospitals for their ability to manufacture ventilators and actually deploy a sanitation of what we're all hearing about, which is PPE, personal protective, what does the E stand for? Equipment. And our own area, Livermore, is providing some essential services beyond our immediate community. And as you say, neighbor to neighbor. So it is good to see you, John. I'm glad that you're getting to wear a different tie, just as you normally do, going throughout what we're doing. And I know you're continuing service to our community, Livermore. There's a lot of information on the website for the city about COVID-19 and details about which services are available and how to contact them. And you've pointed us in the direction of a lot of them. I want to thank you today for your time and look forward to visiting with you again on Mayor's Report.
Thanks, Catherine. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for being here and joining us for Mayor's Report Livermore. I'm your host, former Assemblywoman Catharine Baker. Please join us for the next episode of Mayor's Report Livermore right here on Tri-Valley TV. And on behalf of, I'm sure, Mayor Marchand and everyone in the Tri-Valley, we wish you good health and safety.